Hi and welcome back to the channel. Now for anyone new here, we're diving into the 5th monthly portfolio update for the Junior Stocks and Shares ISA, which I opened for my daughter. This account was opened in September last year and I've been adding to this account ever since. Within these videos, I tend to cover a bit of a market update and then I'll dive into the portfolio itself and we can dive into the past month's performance. Now one of the biggest things to come out of the past month is the significant discussions that have emerged concerning potential reforms to the individual savings account or ISAs here in the UK. Rachel Reeves has a key proposal under consideration which reduces the annual tax-free allowance for cash ISAs from £20,000 down to just £4,000. The goal behind this is to have less people using a cash ISA and more people investing in UK stocks and shares, help boosting the UK economy. Now as part of this plan, it also reduces the allowance of the stocks and shares ISA, taking that from the £20,000 allowance that it is today down to just £16,000. This proposal has sparked considerable debate. Many savers, particularly pensioners and those with short-term financial goals, rely on the cash ISAs as a secure method to protect their savings from taxation. The long-term impacts of this could also have an impact on mortgage rates. Many banks and building societies use the cash ISA as fuel for mortgage lending. If you reduce that funding, mortgages would become more expensive for borrowers. Now I never like to get too political on this channel, as many people will have their own ideas as to whether this is a good or a bad change. I personally think there's one big flaw with this plan. Now, moving people into stocks and shares ISAs in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but who's to say they invest in UK companies? If they invest in the S&P 500, which is probably what most people would do, that's pumping more money out of the UK economy and into the US. For me, the cash ISA has its place. If you're saving for things such as a new home or a new car, you want this in a more stable account rather than a volatile stocks and shares account. Luckily for my daughter and this portfolio in particular, it seems that the Junior Stocks and Shares ISA is going to be left well alone. Now moving on to the markets, it looks like things have been fairly volatile over the past month. US stocks tumbled this past week amid new tariff threats and worries of softening consumer demand. Both the S&P 500 and Dow Jones both plummeted this past week. In particular, the Dow Jones being down almost 3% in the space of 5 days. Donald Trump also announced that he's planning an 8% cut in Pentagon spending. This news has dragged stocks such as AI defense Palantir's stock down around 14% for the week. Interestingly though, commodities have had a good start to the year so far. Gold hit a fresh record high as investors lost appetite for risks within stocks. Here in the UK, year-to-date performance has been strong but remained fairly flat in February. The FTSE 100 has been propped up by the impressive full-year results from companies such as NatWest and JD Sports. These moves come from fresh data showing that the UK retail sales volume rose by 1.7% in January. Now moving over to Europe, the Stoxx 600 is still climbing. The European markets have had a great year so far, being up almost 9% year to date. Upbeat earnings from German industrial giant Siemens and signs that Russia's nearly 3-year-long conflict with Ukraine could end soon has really showed promise amongst this market. So that's a very quick snapshot of the markets. It's always interesting to see how these different changes has impacted the portfolio. Over to the portfolio now, so we can see that we have a new total of just over £1,200, which is great to see given that we've only been investing for about 5 months. Now, for anyone new watching this, I invest entirely into a FTSE Global All Cap index fund, and that is the most simple way of investing from my point of view anyway. We get that global exposure all within one fund, and it also gives me a bit of a hands-off approach, which is great. So I'll dive into the performance and the by month tab. So again, for anyone new watching this, both my partner and I put in around £60 a month. We'll also top up this account with any birthday or Christmas money, but for the month of February, you can see here that it was just the £60 that was added. And then, given that market volatility, we're actually down a little bit this month. Again, this isn't uncommon to see in the world of investing, it's just the way it is, but cumulative returns were still way up at nearly £78. So you can see here, just over £1,100 is what we've added over the past 5 months, and we've had just shy of £78 worth of gains. This gives us a rate of return of just over 10%, which I always highlight really that that's still very good. Granted, this month has been slightly slower, but if you think of a normal cash ISA, you maybe get, especially since the the Bank of England rates have come down, you may be looking at around 3 or 4% interest, whereas we've managed to gain just over 10% in the space of 5 months. So still really happy with the gains. The fact that we've had a slower month there doesn't really impact how I plan to invest. The ups and downs are all part of it. You just got to ride those ups and downs really. But this figure here, as long as this, despite the ups and downs, is going in the right direction, that's all we could really ask for. I'll go on to the graph part of this as well. And again, anyone new here, you can see this is when we invested with a lump sum of around £500 on the 7th of September. And then since then, we've kind of bumped up the £60 here and then. Around Christmas, you'll see another big jump. We got some Christmas money for my daughter from family and friends. So yeah, so that's been put in there again. And then yeah, you can see it's almost like steps, and that's what we'd like to see really. So yep, really happy with the performance here. If we go into calculations, again, that'll just give you a quick snapshot of every sort of number, if you like. Top line figures. This is the amount we've put in here, the cash paid in. This is the amount of gains we've had. And the charges again, which is really minimal for this sort of account, and Vanguard still remains a great platform for a junior stocks and shares ISA. Now, if I go over back onto the graph, it rather interestingly, we did actually have quite a bit more in this account. The market sort of peaked, if you like, so we had around £1,232 in there, and then obviously the market's dipped since, so we've lost around £20 worth of gains, which still not really a big deal in the grand scheme of things. As long as overall it's going up in the right direction, that's absolutely fine. Now, if I click on the Insight tab, so I always cover this in case I've got any new viewers, but this Insight tab on the Vanguard platform shows you within that ETF or that fund that you've chosen, or even if you have a mix of ETFs, overall, where is your money spread out? So the global all cap fund that I invest in on this platform for my daughter, that captures over 7,000 companies from across the globe essentially, and this snapshot will really sort of show you where that's broken up. Obviously a large holding in North America, one of the largest economies in the world, so no surprise there. Around 10% in Europe, and then Asia obviously 11%, so they're kind of the top 3 holdings if you like. And then you can even drill down to the individual companies as well, so I always think this is an interesting graphic, and this might change. This changes every other month, I'd probably say, depending on the weighting within this index, but yeah, top 3 holdings, no surprise: Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, large tech companies. And you can also see there that technology takes the highest portion of this portfolio. And that wraps up this quick portfolio update. We're only 5 months in, but we can already see things are moving in the right direction. My approach remains the same going forward. I'll continue to add the £60 every month and top up at birthdays and Christmas, but ultimately we want to get to a point where the compounding starts to do the heavy lifting. I'd love to hear how your own investment journey's going, whether you're building a junior ISA or a portfolio for yourself. Let me know in the comments. If you found this update helpful, feel free to like and subscribe for any future content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.